Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
And I am Shannon Penrod.
Hi, Shannon.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm great. We actually are going to jump right into our first guest because we've got her on the line.
Okay, great.
And so Leah Hirschfeld has been joining us on a semi-regular basis. In fact, we have somebody from the research team at CARD join us at least once a month.
Right.
But we were lucky enough 2 weeks ago, just the way the days fell. So we have Leah Hirschfeld again.
Good.
So we're really excited that she's with us.
We're always excited to hear her research.
Leah.
Hi, Leah.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be back. It's always a highlight for me, so lucky me, I got to be on twice this month.
Well,
Okay,
and it's a
great.
highlight for us, too. And you
Yes.
share with us some recent research that you get jazzed about, and then you can explain it to us, because Nancy and I frequently need to have it explained to us, like
Yes,
a lot
I think
of people,
everybody
think.
does. Yeah, it's hard to get
So-
to wade through the research.
Absolutely. So, and you give us some of the salient points of things that we might miss just reading about it in the newspaper. So
Right.
we're really thrilled. What are we talking about today?
Great. I'm super excited. So today we're going to be talking about social learning during recess. So there was an article that came out last year in 2018 that was talking about utilizing recess as a time to facilitate social learning and social interaction. And this is cool to me on a lot of fronts. One, for me, remembering back when I used to play at recess, it was always a time that was go be free. So it's cool to me that folks are thinking about utilizing that time, because it is such a good time to focus on social interactions, right? There's so much kid time going on that it's really unstructured, and that can be a really great time to kind of facilitate that. But on the flip side, right, of it being unstructured means that a lot of kids, both typically developing and kids with ASD, have some issues trying to figure out where they fit in that world, right? Do they try to jump in on the soccer field? Do they just walk around the playground? What can they do during that time? So this group was really exciting. They looked at 7 students, and they did the entire year, school year, so about 8 months of intervention. And so what they used was something called the Friend Playground program, which is FRIEND, and it stands for Fostering Relationships in Early Network Development. And they were specifically tracking 2 different types of variables. They were looking at social engagement and social initiations. So social engagement is going to be the child actually engaging with a peer, right? So playing, talking, whatever that might be. And social initiations are going to be that child with ASD actually initiating a conversation or some kind of interaction with a peer. So there was a lot of different ways that this Friends program facilitates those interactions. One, they first added structured activities to the play environment. So they added things like jump rope games, relay activities, board games, things like that. It was during the 20-minute recess period, and they made sure to follow the child's lead. So that's something that you might have heard also in ABA. It's something we try to do as clinicians, is try to follow the child's interests. So if the child's like, man, I love bugs, we're not going to say, that's great, Jimmy, go play kickball. Right, because that's not going to really get them excited or use the intrinsically motivating factor, right? So what this program did was a kid might say, I love bugs, or I love to play board games during indoor recess. And so for the bug kid, they might make some kind of bug treasure hunt, right? So then that child is already excited about that and making that social interaction potentially easier.
Leah?
So they're not also stressed out about the new topic they might be trying to play with.
Leah, let me ask you something. Who initiated these social interactions? Is this being done by an aide, by a BCBA? Who did this?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So they made sure that there was an adult facilitator. So of the 7 kids, a handful of them had one-on-one aides, some had 2-on-1 aides, and I think 1 kid had no aide. But they always made sure that either some kind of researcher who was, or behavioral therapist or BCBA, someone was there facilitating these interactions as well and providing prompts and supports. So it wasn't like they just dropped the kids and were like, okay, bye. They were much more like, okay, Tommy, why don't we go to the soccer field? And when necessary, right, you don't want to be overbearing, but when necessary, they would say, oh, why don't you do X? Or, hey, that was a great way you passed the ball, or something like that. That's a great question.
Okay.
So they facilitated child interactions. And the other way, too, that they did this was they would have a researcher potentially set up a setting where the child with ASD would have to ask the peer for materials or something like that. So what that looked like was, for example, they might be doing an egg relay race, right? And so the researcher would specifically give all the materials to the peer so that the child with ASD would have to do some kind of interaction and would have to say, hey, can I do X, or can I have Y, or can my turn be next, or something like that, because all the materials were with the peer. So what did they find from this? So they did find across all participants that there was an increase in social engagement. So social engagement was, again, when the children were interacting with each other, right? So they did find across all participants there was an increase in child engagement, which is really cool. That's really exciting, especially because this is pretty minimal support, right, that they're giving these kids. They're giving them structured play activities. They're giving light prompts when appropriate. It's mostly that they're having an adult there that can kind of facilitate these interactions. But it wasn't crazy. It wasn't over the top or anything like that. So they did see that from baseline, there was an increase in social engagement across all of the participants. In some of the participants, they found some increase in social interactions. One of the reasons they might not have seen it across all participants, the researchers argue, is because some of the activities were more inclined to have social initiation. So again, that's when you went up to someone and specifically said, hey, can I have a turn? Or, hey, will you let me play with you, right? And that's hard kind of regardless of anything. But some activities, like, for example, that egg race where they gave all of the materials to the peer, that will encourage more child initiations, because if you don't initiate, you're not going to play, you're not going to do anything, than potentially like a game of soccer, where you might just run up and down the field and wait for someone to pass you a ball. And then the cool thing, too, that at least to me makes a lot of sense, is that they saw with the typically developing peers, they saw that the children had more stable lines of high engagement when there was a adult facilitator around. So what that kind of potentially suggests is that not only was having an adult facilitator around really useful to the kids with ASD, but it was also useful to the kids that were typically developing. And that makes sense, right? Because it's hard to kind of hang out at recess and not have a game to play, or walk into a room that you don't know. That's hard for adults. So seeing that also as something that's difficult for typically developing peers, and something that's difficult for children with ASD, but something that's easy, not easy, that's the wrong word, but something that can be facilitated, especially with just some thoughtful planning of, hey, you like bugs, let me make sure that there's a bug relay race going on that you can facilitate with people. Or you like board games, awesome, let's make sure that there's a chess set outside so that you can play that with another peer, right? You don't have to only play on the playground or only play soccer. You can be kind of creative about those outdoor playtime activities during recess. And as an adult, you can also help facilitate those interactions. It doesn't have to just be kids go play. It can be, hey, Johnny, why don't you join? Hey, Sam, why don't you kick the ball to Johnny? And then you can take a step back, kind of watch, see what's going on. And that's not just helpful to the kids with ASD or ADHD or any other diagnosis, but also really helpful to our typically developing kids.
Okay. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
We were saying before we went on the air about the fact that in most schools, when it's time for recess, they give the one-on-one aide their break.
Break, right.
That's when their break comes. And a lot of families get really frustrated with that, because you were saying, Leah, that's prime time.
Right, for socialization, obviously.
So I'm feeling like the takeaway for this is just one more thing for a parent to take to an IEP, this study in your back pocket about all the things that can happen, reasons why they should have goals for on the playground and a facilitator there to do it. So where can they find the study, Leah?
Yeah, so I was just pulling that up. My other computer closed on me. So it was the Promoting Social Learning at Recess for Children with ASD and Related Social Challenges. That was by Dr. Vincent and their team, and it was published in Behavior Analysis and Practice in 2018.
Okay. It's very recent.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, super recent, very exciting. And again, like any research that we talk about on the show, make sure you check the limitations. There's definitely limitations going on. This is only with 7 kids. But it's still really good information, and it's very good information to say, hey, I know this makes a lot of sense for my aide to go take a break during recess. Like, that's operationally totally reasonable. But maybe during free time when the kids play puzzles and my kid is really good at that, maybe that's a better time if possible for the aide to take a break, right? And then make sure the aide feels comfortable also during recess. You can facilitate those interactions. You can talk about, hey, my kid loves bugs, whatever it is. Let's think about another way that they can play. They don't only have to do the monkey bars, right? Yeah. They can be creative about how you engage during recess.
Well, one of the things I discovered just through luck and skills, because I came in with goals from skills. For those of you who hear me talk about skills, this is one of the reasons why I was like, he's not, making friends on the playground. We got to have a goal for that.
Right.
So I went into skills, and it gave me an IEP benchmark, and I came to the IEP meeting and I said, here it is during recess. And they said, oh, does he need a recreational aid? And I said, what's that? Like, oh, we're even holding out on those people. And they had an assessment, and then they had the recreational aid come in and do exactly what you've been talking about. And you know what the greatest thing was? That it helped every single kid in the classroom. They all played better. They all had a better time on the playground because nobody was being left out. Nobody didn't understand the rules.
Right.
And everybody, and the teacher was just so grateful. She was like, this has been the greatest thing for this class to have this recreational aid. It was absolutely fabulous.
Great.
So I think we all need to be lobbying for that kind of stuff. And then the aide did get her break because the recreational aide was there and took over.
Right.
And knew what she was doing. It's all good.
Yeah, I had a friend recently who complained that she visited her child's school, and at lunchtime her son was just wandering around with absolutely no direction and no interaction with the other kids. So she called a meeting and an IEP and said, this has got to be prime social time, and they called a card aide in to facilitate.
Wonderful. See, that's awesome. That we can't let that time go, and we need to tell the schools that. And now Leah's given us this wonderful study that shows that it can be done and fairly easily without anybody pulling a muscle.
And just like you said, it's helpful to everyone, it seems like. It is not just our kids with ASD that need this. This is, just think about it. As an adult, it's hard to walk into a party and just start playing, just start talking, right? So it makes sense that this is hard for everyone and that it would help everyone as well. Just
this is good research, which is what we should call this segment. Good research.
Right, good research.
Anyway, thank you so much for being with us. Hopefully we'll see you next month or soon after that. I know sometimes you guys trade out, but we loved having you.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. I love being on the show. It's always a highlight.
All right, great. Have a great day, Leah.
Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.